I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, I was going through YouTube a couple days ago, and I was looking at some Vancouver real estate blogs and videos, and I came across a large U.S. YouTube channel, very popular. Hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and they've been putting out these videos on the popular cities of the world. They're slowly kind of building up their YouTube channel here. They're based in the U.S. and they just did one recently on Vancouver. I flew up to Vancouver here and stayed, I think, about a week or so and did a pretty deep dive on Vancouver, the pros and cons, and talked a lot about Vancouverism, which, if you guys know, our former city planner, Beasley, Larry Beasley, was kind of the one that started this Vancouverism. And to keep it simple, it was to build a city that was kind of live-work friendly, dense, compact, no freeways running through the middle of the city like they have in a place like Seattle or most U.S. cities. And it's been incredibly successful. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of cities in the world now that are coming up to Vancouver to try and copy Vancouverism. Talked about how, even the condo towers, they would have a podium level, maybe 3 or 4 stories at the sidewalk level. And then the tower set back from that makes it much more street friendly. So it's a really interesting video, but they did the title of the video for Vancouver was, "Is Vancouver the best North American city?" So pretty bold headline there. And the reason for it, obviously, is because Vancouver has been rated in many of these publications, travel magazines, and The Economist, and all kinds of different surveys as one of the top, if not the top, North American city. And it's always been kind of in the top 10 for best world cities, based on a number of factors. There are dozens of them that they look at: livability and amenities and weather. Of course, the cost to live in Vancouver would probably be a negative and bring it down a little bit, because like a lot of these great cities, it's extremely expensive. But the title is "Vancouver the best North American city?" Now, look it up on YouTube. Take a look at this video for yourself. It's pretty well done. It's about 15 minutes. And as expected, thousands and thousands of comments. And in the comment section, not surprising, is a lot of negative comments. And you get so much of this. And the negative comments are kind of the same old thing, because there's other videos on Vancouver. There's dozens of them in YouTube that have had millions of views and thousands of comments. It's usually people that have said, "Hey, I used to live in Vancouver, but it's changed now. The city isn't what it was. It got way too expensive, and I moved to other more affordable cities. Montreal or Calgary or Edmonton was mentioned quite a bit." I've talked a lot about people who have visited Vancouver, for 3 or 4 days and thought it was wonderful and incredible. But then, of course, they would get lambasted from people by saying, well, visiting a city for 3 or 4 days as a tourist is much different than actually living in a city full time and working here and paying rent. And I totally agree. That's absolutely true. You don't get a real perception of what a city is like by visiting it for 3 days and staying at a hotel. You'll get some idea, but it's much different than actually living here full time. But, it's the same stories here. The complaints about Vancouver is it's a city for the rich. If you've got money, Vancouver is an incredible place to live. And yeah, I would agree with that comment as well. If you've got money and you can afford to live in a nice home here and drive a nice car and take advantage of the nice restaurants and entertainment we've got here, groceries are expensive, or if you're renting, that's incredibly expensive too. You're right. You're absolutely right on that, as are most cities. If you've got money, it sure makes living in those cities a lot more enjoyable. But, the other things, of course, were, people saying I moved out of the city and I've never looked back. Those I question a little bit. If you've never looked back, then why are you coming back on this board here and doing these 3 and 4 paragraph comments? But I've said many times on my blog here, Vancouver is not for everybody. It's not. Do I think Vancouver is one of the best North American cities? Yeah, I do, for sure. There's no denying it. Real estate prices go with good cities. If someone can tell me an incredible city that has a lot going for it and has cheap real estate, let me know. because I'd like to have a look at it and maybe buy some investment properties there. But good cities tend to have expensive real estate. If you go down to Southern California and a dozen cities down there, or Manhattan or Miami or Toronto or London or Singapore, I could rattle off 40 cities here that are highly desirable but are also expensive to live. But yes, I would say Vancouver is definitely, I don't know if it's the best city in North America, because there's lots of good ones, but it's definitely up there, probably in the top 5 or top 10 for sure. It's not for everyone. It depends on your lifestyle. And it also depends on your financial circumstance. If you have to rent here for long periods of time, and you're, 60-70% of your net income is going to paying rent, probably not a good setup for you, no matter how much you love the seawall and everything else and the amenities here and the weather. Probably, there's no shame in moving to a more affordable city and setting up shop there. I've had many people that have told me stories about how they moved out of Vancouver for 10 or 15 years, made a career in another more affordable city. Now they're getting ready to retire and they're going to come back to Vancouver, and now they're in a position to buy. Nothing wrong with that. So much of it depends on your income and your lifestyle. For me, I love Vancouver because I built a good business here. I make a good living, so I don't have a problem with the real estate prices and the cost of living here. Also, for my lifestyle, I enjoy riding my bike on the seawall, doing the grouse grind, going up to Whistler, doing some mountain biking. I like the fact it's a quick drive down to Seattle to catch a Seahawks game. I can fly down to Los Angeles in 2.5 hours, and so I go down there all the time. I can get a flight last minute down to Orange County. I can fly to Palm Springs quick, or Phoenix, Arizona. In the wintertime, I can go to Hawaii for a week or 10 days with a relatively short flight, 5 hours, let's call it, compared to Toronto. I mean, those people there are going down to southern Florida. It's an awful long flight to get out to Hawaii, and in my opinion, Hawaii is in another league of its own compared to South Florida. It's not even close. Far better. So it all depends. It's not for everyone here. But so many of these, some people were talking about, the tech sector in Vancouver and how that's taken off. I read another article blog here, talking about, these big companies like Amazon and Shopify, Microsoft are expanding their offices here, partly because it's an incredible draw here to get engineers. They want to live in a great city like Vancouver. And compared to a lot of US cities like San Francisco or Southern California or Manhattan, it's about 30% less expensive for these companies. So that trend will continue. And these are good paying tech sector jobs, $100,000 plus. So of course, they are coming in and squeezing out the ones that aren't earning the $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year. It's making it difficult for those people. So, there is a lot of frustration from people. If you read the comment section in this blog, people were talking about, I moved to Montreal or I moved to Edmonton, and I'm much happier here. And I think that's fantastic. That's great. You want to live in a place where you feel comfortable. You can buy a house or buy a condo and live a good lifestyle. In Vancouver, it's going to be very difficult for a lot of people if you're in that kind of old economy jobs making $50,000 or $60,000 a year. And unfortunately, that's never going to change. It's not. The toothpaste is out of the tube. The horse is out of the barn. Some people were saying, well, I'd like to move back to Vancouver when the housing prices crash. Well, I wouldn't hold your breath on that. Yeah, we can get a 10 or a 15% or a 20% correction would be quite normal for Vancouver real estate. When that'll happen, who knows? But it'll still be way out of reach for most people earning less than $50,000 or $60,000 a year. But it can be done. I've given you lots of those motivational videos on young people I'm selling homes to all the time. They're not all in the tech sector either. Skilled tradespeople, don't sleep on that. Plumbers, electricians, landscapers who start their own business, they're all earning over 6 figures and can comfortably buy a condo, start with a condo in Vancouver or a 2-bedroom condo or a townhouse in Richmond or Burnaby. But it's an interesting little video. Is Vancouver the best North American city? It's up for debate. I certainly think it's in the conversation, as do most people. But as they say in the comments, it's not for everyone. Unless you've got a lot of money, it's not an enjoyable place to live. Maybe, maybe not. But I would say Vancouver, bar none, is the best city in Canada. And you'll get people that will throw out, well, I'm going to move to Austin, Texas or something, which is a hot city, or Nashville. Well, I don't know if you can. I mean, if you're a Canadian citizen, you can't move and work in Nashville or Austin. You need to get a visa, U.S. working visa, which are incredibly difficult to get. So if you're a Canadian, Vancouver, hands down, is the best city in Canada to live. Not going to be easy to live here. You're going to have to work for it. And again, no harm in maybe leaving the city for a while, making some money, banking some money in a more affordable city, and then eventually coming back to Vancouver and taking advantage of all we've got going here. But again, no right or wrong. It depends on the person. I happen to think Vancouver's best city in Canada and one of the best cities in North America to live. I'm willing to pay and work for it to be able to live here. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks to all my new subscribers. I'll see you next week.